This is an extremely concerning situation. I don't think anyone in the United States government, Americans, do not support actual Nazis or white supremacists. I know I certainly do not.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before I get into it, it's interesting to hear my colleague just now talk about disavowing white supremacists when in 2022, she spoke at an event led by white supremacist and white nationalist Nick Fuentes, and when asked about it, doubled down on it and said, we're going to focus on people, not labels. So get out of here with that damn hypocrisy.
Marjorie Taylor Greene's history of anti-Semitism, conspiracy theories, and white supremacist flirtations came back to haunt her today during a congressional hearing when House Democrats lined up back to back to back to call the MAGA cultist out after she feigned outrage and opposition to Nazis. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bell before you go. I'd greatly appreciate it. All right, friends, we have several clips to play in this video, and all of them are from that same intense Congressional Oversight Committee hearing that I talked about in a previous video today. It went on for 4 hours, and there were many standout moments. And the collection I'm about to show you all pertain to Marjorie Taylor Greene's 5 minutes of questioning, in which she tried to justify her opposition to funding Ukraine's efforts to resist Russia's invasion. Because according to her, Ukraine is just brimming with Nazis.
According to Christopher Wray, the FBI director, he said that Azov has been recruiting and radicalizing and training American citizens for years. He also finished saying in his testimony to the U.S. Senate that American white supremacists are actually traveling overseas to train. This is an extremely concerning situation. I don't think anyone in the United States government, Americans, do not support actual Nazis or white supremacists. I know I certainly do not.
Well, that's news to people. It's news to me. It's probably news to your constituents as well. Marjorie Taylor Greene apparently doesn't like Nazis, which runs in stark contrast to everything Marjorie Taylor Greene has ever said or done, right? But again, she's indulging this idea that Ukraine, particularly its military, is just run and consists of Nazis, okay? Now, I'll also point out that FBI Director Christopher Wray, whom she cited there, she hates Christopher Wray, even though he's a Republican and a Trump appointee to that position, who was kept in place by President Biden when Biden was inaugurated. And FBI Director Christopher Wray has also said repeatedly that the single greatest threat with respect to domestic terrorism are far-right, radical, violent Republicans. So radical far-right figures and far-right violence is the single greatest domestic political threat to the United States. So that's also something that Marjorie Taylor Greene should perhaps make a mental note of and try not to contribute so much towards, and maybe vociferously condemn. Here's one more clip from Marge in her 5 minutes, and then we'll get to the Democrats' brutal, effective, and bluntly honest responses.
And there's frequent pictures all over. Anybody can find them of Nazis. Here they are. This looks like something you'd see out of Hitler's Germany.
Or a Trump rally, maybe, perhaps, maybe in Charlottesville. I don't know, something. Again, food for thought. So we're going to start with the Democrats, particularly Maxwell Frost, who is a freshman Democrat, and he came right after Marjorie Taylor Greene and was the first one to respond to her, and it's pretty good.
Chair now recognizes Mr. Frost from Florida.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before I get into it, it's interesting to hear my colleague just now talk about disavowing white supremacists when in 2022, she spoke at an event led by white supremacists and white nationalist Nick Fuentes, and when asked about it, doubled down on it and said, we're going to focus on people, not labels. So get out of here with that damn hypocrisy. And Dr.
Great stuff. Again, immediately push back, take none of it at face value. If Marjorie Taylor Greene or another far-right Trump Republican elected official starts complaining about Nazis, I think you have every right to not take it at face value and to say, no, actually, you need to prove it. Most people saying they oppose Nazis, we just take them at face value. But given that you're a far-right elected Republican MAGA cultist, nah, you should probably actually have to provide more proof than that. So good on him for bringing the receipts, pointing out the fact that she not only spoke with Nick Fuentes publicly, right, at a Nick Fuentes event, she also, when it was brought to her attention, basically doubled down on it, right? And she didn't speak to debate Nick Fuentes or refute Nick Fuentes, which is acceptable. It's okay to actually, refute and debunk and debate Nick Fuentes and shame him in the marketplace of ideas. No, he was a comrade. He was a fellow Trump-supporting comrade as far as Marjorie Taylor Greene's concerned. Super gross stuff. Then you have freshman Democratic Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, who was the next to speak, and this is what she had to say.
And as we talk about rhetoric, something else that was appalling to me was this insinuation that when you look at the Ukrainians, which is why we're having problems getting the funding that Ukraine needs, is because people in this chamber push misinformation and disinformation. They want to talk about the Ukrainians got all of these Nazis. Well, let me tell you something. You can find Nazis anywhere. You can find them right here in the United States. In fact, a bunch of the people that they're calling victims and prisoners of war, also known as convicted felons from January 6th. I have an article that I'd like to enter into the record by unanimous consent that says neo-Nazi January 6th rioter pleads guilty.
Without objection.
Thank you so much. So here's the point. We have people in this chamber that are actually causing just as much a threat, if not more of a threat, to our own country.
Again, great stuff, and I could watch her for hours. She's so good at what she does. I love the energy that she brings to the House Democrats, along with Frost and Dan Goldman, and also Jared Moskowitz, a Jewish Democratic freshman congressman from Florida. He has also spoke and addressed Marjorie Taylor Greene's comments, and this is what he had to say.
Now, I want to address something else that went on in this committee by another member. And I say this as someone whose grandparents escaped the Holocaust. So my grandmother was part of the Kinder transport out of Germany. Her parents were killed in Auschwitz. My grandfather, her husband, escaped Poland from the pogroms. You know, the idea that we pretend that behavior is acceptable and regular. There are no concentration camps in Ukraine. They're not taking babies and shooting them in the air because they're Jewish. There's no gas chambers. There's no ovens. They're not railing people in. They're not ripping gold out of people's mouth. They're not taking stuff out of their home. They're not trying to erase a people. They're Ukrainians. Stop bringing up Nazis and Hitler. The only people who know about Nazis and Hitler are the 10 million people and their families who lost their loved ones, generations of people who were wiped out. It is enough of this disgusting behavior using Nazis as propaganda. You want to talk about Nazis? Get yourself over to the Holocaust Museum.
Marge is probably too busy denying that the Holocaust ever happened. But again, great, powerful words from Congressman Moskowitz. Folks, Marjorie Taylor Greene is obviously in a storm right now, right? Not only is she declaring war on the Republican Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, who's also a terrible person, so we have absolutely no sympathy for him, but then she's embarrassing herself and her party and her constituents in hearings like this. Again, feigning outrage for Nazis and white supremacists, even as she is a member, a high-ranking cultist in a far-right cult, which has a disproportionate number of white supremacists and Nazis. And again, all in an effort to deny Ukraine the military assistance it needs to keep out Russian invaders. Also want to point this out. Earlier, an op-ed was written on Fox News. This is a Fox News op-ed called Marjorie Taylor Greene is an Idiot. She's trying to wreck the GOP. Representative Greene needs to be clear about what's really at stake in 2024. And I'm not going to read the whole thing, and it's coming from a far-right perspective. Basically, this person is upset that Marjorie Taylor Greene is being strategically problematic, not because she has far-right views, not because she says and does stupid things, but that she says some stupid things which undermine the GOP's ability to take power, right? This person obviously doesn't care about Marjorie Taylor Greene's history of conspiracy theories and anti-Semitism and white supremacist flirtations. Certainly don't care that she spoke at, again, this event with Nick Fuentes and buddied up to him. It's more that she is, basically creating a circular firing squad within the GOP, that she is undermining the GOP, that she's fighting with Republicans. But even though that's obviously a very cynical take on it, obviously this person just wants Marjorie Taylor Greene to fall in line. I think it's a great op-ed in terms of the fact that even other far-right people, even other conservatives, even other members of the MAGA Republican Party believe that Marjorie Taylor Greene is an idiot. So that does seem to be the one thing that we have in common politically, those of us on the left and those of us at least some of them in the far right, we have one thing in common, and that is that we all think Marjorie Taylor Greene is an idiot. I'm just glad that Fox News has these words on their home screen for the first time ever. Let me know what you think in the comments.